Welcome back to Ancient History. Today, we are following the 7 wonders of the ancient world, monuments so famous that they became the first great travel list in history. These were not just buildings. They were statements of power, faith, wealth, engineering, ambition, and the human desire to be remembered. The ancient list was shaped by Greek-speaking travelers and writers who looked across Egypt, Mesopotamia, Anatolia, and the Mediterranean. They chose works that seemed almost impossible for human hands to create. Some were tombs, some temples, some statues, and one was a lighthouse that turned night itself into a tool of navigation. Only one of the 7 still stands today, the Great Pyramid of Giza. That fact gives the story its power. The wonders were built to overcome time, yet time defeated nearly all of them. What remains is a trail of ruins, descriptions, fragments, reconstructions, and legends that still pull the imagination across the ancient world. The first wonder was already ancient when the others were built. The Great Pyramid was raised for Pharaoh Khufu in Egypt's Old Kingdom, when royal authority, labor organization, and sacred architecture came together on a scale the world had never seen. To later travelers, it looked less like a tomb than a mountain made by kings. The pyramid was not only massive, it was precise. Its base, chambers, passages, and alignment reflected a society capable of planning across years and mobilizing thousands of workers. The Great Pyramid became a symbol of the Egyptian state itself, ordered, sacred, and confident that stone could carry a king into eternity. The second wonder leads us into mystery. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon were described as terraces of trees, water, shade, and stone rising above a great Mesopotamian city. Yet no confirmed archaeological trace has been found. They may have stood in Babylon, or they may preserve a confused memory of another royal landscape. Whether real, misremembered, or transformed by legend, the gardens mattered because they represented the dream of controlling nature. In a dry imperial world, to raise trees above brick terraces and feed them with water would have been a royal miracle. The wonder was not just beauty. It was mastery over landscape. Babylon itself already carried an atmosphere of power. Walls, processional roads, gates, temples, and towers. The gardens became part of that larger image. For later writers, Babylon was the city where kings tried to make the impossible visible, turning empire into architecture and architecture into memory. The third wonder was the statue of Zeus at Olympia, built by the sculptor Phidias. It showed the king of the gods seated in overwhelming majesty. This was not simply religious decoration. It was a vision of divine authority placed inside one of the most sacred spaces of the Greek world. Ancient viewers described the statue as enormous, richly decorated, and emotionally overpowering. Zeus sat on his throne in gold and ivory, holding symbols of victory and rule. To stand before it was to feel the distance between human ambition and divine presence, exactly the feeling the sanctuary was designed to create. But even divine images were not safe from history. The statue of Zeus eventually vanished, probably destroyed after being moved or lost during the violent transformations of late antiquity. Its temple survived only in ruins, while the image itself became a memory preserved by coins, descriptions, and later artistic imagination. The fourth wonder was the Temple of Artemis at Ephesus, a sanctuary so grand that ancient writers placed it above nearly everything else. It was a building of columns, marble, devotion, and civic pride. For Ephesus, the temple was not only sacred ground, it was the image of the city's greatness. The temple's scale made it famous. Its columns rose like a forest of stone, surrounding a cult that drew worshippers, wealth, and political attention. In the ancient world, religion and economy often moved together. A great sanctuary could be a holy place, a treasury, a meeting ground, and a symbol of regional power. The Temple of Artemis was destroyed more than once, most famously by fire. Its story shows how fragile greatness could be. A building could take generations to raise, and only one act of violence to scar. Yet the temple returned again and again in memory, because its reputation became stronger than its stones. The fifth wonder was the Mausoleum at Halicarnassus. It was built for Mausolus, ruler of Caria, and for his dynasty's memory. Unlike a temple for a god or a pyramid for a pharaoh, this monument stood at the meeting point of Greek, Persian, and Anatolian traditions, turning a royal tomb into an international masterpiece. The mausoleum rose in tiers, crowned with sculpture and designed to dominate the city around it. Its builders understood that death could be political. A ruler's body might disappear, but the architecture above it could continue to speak. That is why the word mausoleum still means a monumental tomb today. Earthquakes and later reuse brought the mausoleum down over time. Its fragments were carried into other buildings or preserved in museums, while its form survived in drawings and reconstructions. The wonder became a lesson in legacy. Even broken monuments can leave behind ideas powerful enough to reshape the language of architecture. The sixth wonder was the Colossus of Rhodes, a bronze statue of the sun god Helios. It celebrated the city's survival after siege and turned victory into a figure visible from the harbor. The Colossus was not just a statue, it was a political message cast in metal. Later, imagination often pictured the Colossus straddling the harbor, but that image is almost certainly impossible. The real statue likely stood beside the water, tall enough to astonish visitors without needing legend to make it greater. Its power came from the idea of Rhodes watching over the sea. The Colossus stood for only a few decades before an earthquake toppled it. Even fallen, it remained famous. Ancient visitors still came to see the broken giant lying on the ground. In that image, the wonder became more haunting. Not invincible power, but the ruins of power made visible. The seventh wonder was the Lighthouse of Alexandria, built on the island of Pharos. Unlike some wonders, it was not only symbolic. It had a practical purpose. Its light helped guide ships into one of the greatest ports of the ancient Mediterranean, where trade, scholarship, and royal power met. The Pharos was an engineering masterpiece. Ancient accounts describe a tower rising in stages, with a fire or reflected light visible far out at sea. It gave sailors something priceless: orientation in darkness. In a dangerous harbor world, light became architecture, and architecture became safety. Alexandria was the right city for such a wonder. Founded in the age of Alexander and ruled by the Ptolemies, it became a crossroads of ships, books, ideas, soldiers, merchants, and royal ambition. The lighthouse stood at the edge of that world, turning the city into a beacon of empire. Earthquakes damaged the Pharos across centuries, and eventually it disappeared as a lighthouse. Later fortifications rose on the same site, while blocks and statues were found in the harbor waters. The wonder survived as memory, archaeology, and the model for lighthouse building long after its flame went out. Seen together, the seven wonders were not a neutral list. They reflected what ancient travelers valued: height, expense, sacred force, technical achievement, royal memory, and visual shock. The list was a map of admiration, drawn by people who believed that some works deserved to be spoken of across generations. They were also fragile. Fire, earthquakes, conquest, neglect, and reuse destroyed 6 of the 7. This is the deeper drama of the list. The ancient world could build on a breathtaking scale, but no monument was beyond disaster. Even wonders could become debris, rumor, or a name carved into memory. Yet their destruction made them stronger in another way. Because most of the wonders vanished, imagination had to rebuild them. Artists, historians, archaeologists, and storytellers filled the gaps with drawings, models, and reconstructions. The lost wonders became a partnership between evidence and wonder itself. The Great Pyramid remains the exception, standing against the horizon after more than 4,000 years. Its survival changes the meaning of the entire list. It is not only one wonder among seven. It is the last witness, the stone survivor that reminds us the ancient world was capable of turning ambition into landscape. That is why the seven wonders still matter. They show how civilizations wanted to be seen. Eternal, sacred, victorious, beautiful, and beyond ordinary human limits. They also show that memory can outlive stone. A destroyed statue, a lost garden, or a fallen lighthouse can still shape the way later ages imagine greatness. The seven wonders were built to astonish the ancient world, but their real legacy is how they still astonish us. Thank you for watching Ancient History. If you enjoyed this journey, leave a like, subscribe, and tell us which lost wonder or ancient city you want to explore next.